Hey, get this. Former President Biden just sold his memoir for $10 million. Now he just has to remember something. Anything. Biden actually has a great title for the book. It's called LOL, Guess Who Ain't in the Epstein Files.
And they couldn't resist. They just couldn't resist trying to make it about Epstein and Trump. So sad. So sad. It is the Chris Plante Show. Michael Pelka in for my buddy Chris Plante. Happy Friday to you and yours. Yeah, that is one of the big topics of the day. The Biden memoir, $10 million check. Pales in comparison to what the Obamas got, $60 million. But, $10 million, I wouldn't turn it away. As they say in the Biden household, nothing to sniff at. And then Joe goes, where? I know that's wrong. We are making a list of potential titles of the Biden memoir, like many other people, especially the one I loved from one of the great Chris Plante listeners last hour, the suggestion of a co-author named Otto Penn. Very good. Very good. And so far, the leading candidate or candidates for the title for the Biden memoirs, Am I Still President? I think I like that one. I think that's pretty darn good. Corn Pop and Lunch Bucket Joe. Tales from Lunch Bucket Joe. That's kind of interesting to get Corn Pop in there. And come on, man. I still also like it. Remember when Joe used to say, I give you my word as a Biden, which nobody ever knew what the hell that meant. But we will continue accepting your suggestions for the Joe Biden memoir. There are other stories that we have to cover. The president just leaving the White House a few moments ago, headed to Scotland, where he has said, because someone asked him, why is he going to Scotland? Why are you going to Scotland? Unfinished business. Unfinished. That sounds a little bit like something Tony Soprano would say, doesn't it? I know he's going to visit his golf courses in Scotland. And I wonder do we have a trade deal that's coming together with Scotland, or didn't we already make one? I'd like to know. We'll find out, but the president's going over there. I've heard speculation from the great Michael Piercy that maybe there's a meeting scheduled with Rosie O'Donnell. Doubt that's happening. Really doubt that's happening. While he was leaving the White House, the president was quizzed by some of the rabid media gathered outside of the South Lawn where the Marine One helicopter was waiting, and they asked him if he was going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. The president said he had not yet considered that. Now, there was a meeting yesterday with Ghislaine Maxwell from a deputy AG from the Justice Department was there, and now that same Attorney General deputy will be back meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell again today. Maxwell's attorneys are giving glowing reports about what was said and how she told the truth, and I think we should just wait until we actually hear what was said. I don't think it's wise to take the words of Maxwell's attorney. She is, in fact, serving a 20-year sentence for basically child prostitution. Not a good person. Got a 20-year sentence. So I'm not really expecting much truth to come out of her, but we'll see. 7 years, which I think she's already been in prison for 7 years. 7 years behind bars will maybe refocus you. The other story that's kind of bubbling yesterday, and the left is trying to make it a racist thing already, which is just so bizarre when you think about it. The president yesterday afternoon went to visit the Federal Reserve to look at the multi-billion-dollar makeover to the Federal Reserve building complex. And the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, who has been the subject of many, many comments from the president, was walking alongside Donald Trump as they got the tour inside the building. A couple of things come to mind when I'm watching this. I'm watching the Fed chair and the president both wearing hard hats, and they have a construction worker, probably supervisor, behind them, walking them through the construction. And they're wearing hard hats. And I get it. It's a construction zone. Do you really think it's necessary for the hard hats? This is optics. This is presidential optics, I guess. And where the racism comes in, and this is kind of the funny thing, Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott, was also alongside the president or with him through much of this tour. And then there was a 13-minute press opportunity outside of the building. The president came down this wooden staircase around with scaffolding all around it. You saw that if you watched it yesterday. And the back of my brain, I'm thinking Biden would have never made that. He'd never have been able to scale those stairs or come down those stairs. It just would not have been safe for him. But President Trump did it well. And especially a week after he was diagnosed as having this vascular issue, which caused serious swelling in his ankles, normal, but a problem nonetheless. He still navigated this quite well. Anyway, Tim Scott did not have a hard hat on. And I was thinking, why didn't Tim Scott get a hard hat? And I think none of the other people had hard hats, too. It was just Trump and Powell and the worker/supervisor, the construction site. And MSNBC immediately went to, why wasn't Tim Scott given a hard hat? You know, it's basically the only black guy there didn't get a hard hat. I think there were other people, too. It's not always about race, you weasels. Irritating. But the moment that a lot of people are talking about that some of it's visual, but it also is interesting because the president doesn't want Jerome Powell in the role that he appointed him 2 years ago. And yes, President Trump appointed the Fed chair to the position that he currently holds. And it's a 10-year gig. And there's a lot of questions about what would happen should Jerome Powell be forced out, fired, or if he suddenly leaves. Powell certainly knows the president doesn't want him there. Thinks he's not doing the right job. The interest rates are too high. He'd like to see them lower. He said that many times, calling the Fed chair too late Powell. But as they're walking through this massive multi-billion-dollar reconstruction, they stopped for the cameras for a few moments.
Billion went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
So when Donald Trump says the 2.7 just went up to 3.1, Powell's neck snapped. He did the double take, and if this had been a cartoon, you would have heard the what? But his neck snap said, I'm not aware of that. And then the president says, yes. Yes, and he pulls out a sheet of paper from inside his lapel pocket. He brought the receipts.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
I noticed that at about 3.1 as well.
So the president unfolds the paper and hands it to Powell, who reaches for his readers inside his jacket pocket. And Tim Scott says our number said 3.1 as well. He confirms what the president is saying. And then the chairman goes to read the letter.
3.1,
3.2.
This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
So Powell says, wait a minute. This came from us? And President Trump points to a name on the letterhead. Says, yeah, right there. I don't know who that person is, basically. And then the chairman scans it. And there is something here that's kind of interesting.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
So the number that I think is still too high for a renovation of a building, the $2.5 billion renovation, which I now guess is up to $2.7 billion, and some of that has to do with The increase in the price has to do with the increase in the prime lending rate. If the rates were lower, the cost to build and rebuild these buildings would be considerably lower. That point should have been made, I think. But what Powell is saying, hey, you shouldn't include the other building here. I don't understand how he's not aware that he was liable to have this brought up in this meeting. President Trump saying, look, you've rebuilt this building and you spent $2.5 million, and then we have this third building, which puts it over $3 billion. In the exterior meeting, outside of the construction site, President Trump also pointed out some pretty serious issues that are egregious violations of the trust that people put in our officials to use the tax dollars wisely. The president pointed out when he took over the old post office and rebuilt it into the Trump Hotel, anybody who ever stayed in it, it was a spectacular hotel. I've been there several times. He's since sold it. And I'm not sure, did he buy it back? Because it went into bankruptcy after he sold it. But that hotel was beautiful, and he spent $200 million doing it. $200 million to make that a beautiful hotel. And he's saying that this is just a cost overrun. And there was a question about whether or not the president would be looking at firing the person who did this. If this were a construction manager on one of your projects, would you fire this person? And the president obviously knew what was going on and didn't really back it up. He's saying, that, yeah, I probably would, but that's not what we're here about. He got the idea. He understood what they were trying to say. No, that's not what was happening. But I thought it was a very interesting moment. And the inclusion of the third building, or whatever the building was, that puts it over the $3.1 billion expenditure. Good move, I think, because it puts Powell in a very uncomfortable place. All right, I'm seeing there are still some suggestions coming in for the name of Joe Biden's book, his memoirs. Let's get to some of your suggestions. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Amy in Culpeper, Virginia, joining us. Amy, you have a title?
Yes, I do. It is called, just call it The Pony Show.
The Pony Show? Oh,
The Pony Show.
You mean like the dog-faced pony soldier, or are we just going to the pony? I don't get the Pony Show. What am I missing?
Well, he always says the dog-faced pony show.
Oh, yeah, it was the dog-faced. The dog-faced. He called somebody a dog-faced pony soldier, and we've never really figured out where that came from. It was kind of mentioned in a John Wayne movie years ago. But I love getting anything in there that will point out his problem with getting a point across. That's a good idea. There you go. He called somebody a lion, dog faced pony soldier. It's good stuff. Let's go to Dave in Florida. Dave, you have a title for the book?
Oh, yeah, Mike. I say Grifting for Dummies, The Big Guy Chronicles.
Oh, I like this, Grifting for Dummies. You know, we're cashing in on that old whatever for dummies format that helps people understand. And maybe there could be some special lessons from Hunter, who was certainly the Sancho Panza of the grifting parade in the family with the big guy. Well done, Dave. I'm taking one more of this break. Let us go to Mark in Landover Hills, Maryland. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Mike, great job. Shout out to Jane. I got a couple for you, Mike, but the first one would be, what was that?
I like what was that, because he probably says that a lot. That's good.
Oh, my God, Mike. It covers a lot of bases, but the other one would be an acronym, and it would be SCUM, and it stands for Stupid, Careless, Unscrupulous Morons.
Oh, SCUM. That may be a new government agency. I'm just saying you may have stumbled into a couple things here. Grifting for Morons is pretty darn good. Thank you, Mark. Taking a break. You're more than welcome to keep suggesting. Jane is overwhelmed, but just be nice to her. 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
Mr. Biden, what flavor did you get?
Chocolate chip.
What's most disturbing about that clip is the fact that the press actually fawns over his answer. It's Mike Opelka for Chris Plante on the Chris Plante Show on this Friday. And Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., when he walked out of, I don't know which ice cream parlor it was in which state, but they press it with all of the questions. You know, they're shouting at Trump as he's leaving the White House, saying, are you going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? You're going to release the Epstein files? How do you feel about your name being in the Epstein files? No. They didn't ask Donald Trump, what did you have for breakfast, or did you have any ice cream last night? But that's all they'd ever ask Joey. And then when he'd say chocolate chip, oh. The fawning media really is embarrassing. Very embarrassing. They should be embarrassed. We are still taking your suggestions for the titles for the Biden memoirs. And earlier, someone said the big guy, and I was correct in my assumption. Yes, Miranda Devine, the woman who wrote the incredible book, The Laptop from Hell, followed it up with The Big Guy, How a President and His Son Sold Out America. It was released as Joe Biden was dropping out of the race, so I think she kind of got, screwed by time on that. Had he stayed in the race, probably would have been a much bigger seller. But it's still a good book. But the first book, Laptop from Hell, that's still a great beach read. We'll get back to the phones shortly. I mentioned the president. We just played the clip of the president meeting with Jerome Powell. He was asked about that before he left the White House this morning. The president was asked how that meeting went, and he seemed to think it was pretty positive.
We had a very good meeting. Forgetting about the building, that's out of control and all that. But I think we had a very good meeting on interest rates. And he said to me, now I don't know if he's going to say this on Thursday or whenever he speaks, but he said to me very strongly, the country is doing well. He said, congratulations. The country is doing really well. And I got that to mean that I think he's going to start recommending lower rates.
Because of that conversation?
How do you think that the Supreme
Court... The country really is doing well. We had a very good meeting. Forgetting about the building, that's out of control.
Yeah, the country is doing well. The president's been saying that. He was told that by the Saudis, you remember. It's the hottest country on the planet, he's often want to say. There's more from his exit of the White House heading over to Scotland, and, of course, more of your suggestions of what the titles to the upcoming Joe Biden memoir should be. And Democrats say the darndest things. That's coming up as well. It's Opelka for Plante on the Chris Plante Show. Welcome back to the Chris Plante Show. Mike Opelka, that's my name, in for my friend Chris Plante. If you want to see the stories that catch my attention, you can always check out pureopelka.com. I post them every morning around 6 a.m. Just stuff that catches my eye. No subscriptions, no ads. It's kind of like a little page of links. And they get updated, too, because things change. There's stuff breaking all the time. Somebody wrote me and said, hey, Mike, you're talking about the Biden book. You haven't mentioned much about Hulk Hogan's passing. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, and it's certainly something we talked about at the very end of the show yesterday when the news was breaking. And, yeah, we'll get to a great Hulk Hogan moment and play you some great Hogan audio. And there's no denying the guy was a gigantic superstar. I met him twice, once at a television convention and once just on the streets of Miami. And he could not have been friendlier. Just to, I didn't tell him I was in the business. He just was as nice as could be. So rest in peace, Hulkster. Gone at 71 years old. That just seems like so young. And, of course, Chuck Mangione. And then we get news. This just happened. Phil Collins is in hospice. We knew Phil Collins was not well. But music legend from Genesis, from solo work, Phil Collins in hospice. And I was sharing with Michael Piercy, Phil Collins, kind of interesting that this British guy was a huge fan of the Alamo. And years ago, he had what was known as one of the greatest collections of Texas historical memorabilia as it relates to the Alamo. And I believe, I'd have to triple check this, Phil Collins may have donated that back to the Alamo. It has nothing to do with the Pee Wee Herman bike that's going to be on display at the Alamo, too, which is still kind of weird that that's happening. But if you got room on your prayer wheel today, you might add Phil Collins in there, because he's probably going to be the next name in bold typeface that we announce is checking out. Just kind of weird to see it all happening, one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's getting to be a little exhausting. I know a lot of our Gen Z friends are going, stop already. Stop. And we were briefly talking about President Trump's leaving the White House, heading to Joint Base Andrews, where he will get on Air Force One and fly to Scotland for some, quote, unfinished business, which I'm dying to know what that is. But the president bombarded with questions constantly by the media about Epstein. And he finally asked why they weren't bringing up another individual.
You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Do you maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside?
I don't know what he's talking about, the people laying outside, but that quick shot to Bill Clinton and having the numbers, how many times Bill Clinton reportedly visited Epstein's Island. I think you need to take that kind of offensive regularly, sir. I think that's a good thing to do. As I said, we've got a couple of my favorite regular features. Democrats say the darndest things. There are Democrats who, on a daily basis, seem to just say really dumb things, and we'll share them with you. The president's reference to the administration, the Obama-Biden administration, and the Biden administration, and how they weaponized information against him, it keeps coming back to what the media did in carrying water for these guys. And I want to make sure we share some of those clips as well. And we'll be going back to the phones to get more of your suggested titles for the Biden book, because there's just so many good ones. I'm still digging Am I Still President? Grifting for Dummies, and Come On, Man, which could be there. But I wanted to remind you that the media needs to never be forgiven for what they did when they carried the water, as I said, for the Democrats in their Russia hoax. And one of the guys who's now trying to rehab his image is the lesser Cuomo. And Cuomo used to be on CNN. Now you see him on, I think he's on News Nation. But if we go back to 2018, this flashback, it needs to never be forgotten. This is Chris Cuomo, 2018.
The world witnessed a betrayal the likes of which we've never seen. America's president sided with its enemy today. Shock has turned to a national shunning as America finds unity in President Trump's perfidy. First up tonight, we have former U.S. Intelligence Chief Leon Panetta on what does it mean when a president betrays his own country. It was the simplest of all questions regarding Russia's attacks on our democracy. Did it happen?
Well, now, we were told by Barack Obama that the Russians didn't have any effect. Remember? And then we now have the Tulsi Gabbard story that shows that was the case, but they created this Russia collusion story. And this is the moment, this 2018 clip goes back to the moment when the president met with Vladimir Putin, and he said he asked him directly, did he meddle in our elections? And he said no. And now that's kind of the truth, isn't it? But CNN and everybody else on the left side of the mainstream media was absolutely rabid about this.
Our democracy. Did it happen?
So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
That was the President of the United States answer. A kick in the groin to his counterintelligence men and women, to his country, and most to the truth.
Well, he did say he has great confidence in his intelligence community. The president did say that. Cuomo is trying to rehab his reputation. That's one of the things that that seems to be happening, especially with the News Nation stuff. But I wonder if he's going to be able to explain all of these, explain them away. I doubt it. I doubt it. It'd be pretty tough to do that. Pretty tough to do that. This was about the same time. I'm trying to remember when Chuck Schumer got his drawers in a bunch in terms of what the president was saying, and Chuck Schumer trying to tell us that he was trying to warn. It was before this. It was January 4th of 2017. So Donald Trump had not yet been inaugurated when Chuck Schumer went on MSNBC and tried to basically drop a threat to the incoming president about what could happen to him if he dared to question the intelligence community.
Taking these shots, this antagonism,
Yep.
this taunting to the intelligence
Let me tell
community.
you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What?
So that was January 4th of 2017. Donald Trump had not yet been inaugurated. He was 2 weeks away from being sworn in as the president of the United States. And Schumer basically warning him. And did Schumer know that a meeting happened in December of 2016? That Barack Obama and some of the intelligence people were putting together this plan, this plot? You just have to wonder. Schumer has that little grin. You know, the what-eating grin. 2017. We should never forget this. This is one of those things that has to be forever etched into our memories. And every time these people try and say something, we have to raise our hands and say, excuse me, what about, and then play it. Because all this is forever. None of this stuff ever goes away. And I'm not giving up on this. I know we started this week with Tulsi Gabbard giving us the beginning of some intel, and it continues to come out, continues to trickle out. But until this strike force group that has been organized by the Department of Justice actually brings us some results in the form of maybe an indictment, maybe some charges, I think a lot of us are going to be unsatisfied. A lot of us are. You know where we are going to be satisfied, though, is in the comedy area. It's Friday, and we're trying to have some fun today. So I have tasked all of you in the vast and unpaid resource department of the Chris Plante Show to come up with a title for the Joe Biden memoir that's about to come out. So let's check in with some of your ideas. Jason is in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Jason, you have a title for the Biden memoirs?
Morning, Mike. Yes, in an ode to Ozzy, maybe Crazy Brain.
Crazy Brain. I see what you did there. You brought in the late Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. Very good. Crazy. I like Crazy Brain. I don't know how many of the Biden fans will get it, but that's a pretty good one. Thank you, Jason. Let's go to Mike in Southern Maryland. Mike, what's your title?
I was never really president.
Sort of an admission, right? I was never really the president. Fooled ya. That's pretty good, Mikey. Thank you. Let's go to Mike in Chicago. We're staying on the Mike train. Hello, Mike, listening on the great WLS.
Yes. Not about the book, but as a former intelligence officer, where is the punishment for these corrupted people in the FBI and the CIA and Obama administration, Biden administration? I mean, why do FBI agents, senior agents in the FBI and the CIA have briefcases full of burner phones if they're doing things legit? It's
Mike,
time that we put these people in prison where they belong.
Thank you for that statement. I agree with you completely. How long did you serve in the intelligence community?
24 years.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for your service. Do you see or do you think there's a possibility we're ever going to get a real inside whistleblower to tell us what happened about the formation of all of the things that Tulsi Gabbard has exposed?
Well, I think the simplest way, Mike, to do this is real simple. If you're the FBI director or the CIA director, you make everybody in that agency, every agent, sign a piece of paper saying that they never used a burner phone to do any illegal activity or never planned or plotted against a president or former president. You make them sign an affidavit, and if that, when you prove that they lied, not only can you fire them, but you can put them in prison where they belong.
That's a great point, Mike. Thank you for that. And I will never forget that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page both received massive payouts when they left the government service. Strzok got $1.2 million. Lisa Page got $800,000. That's been confirmed. You can't even argue about it. Really important stuff. Let's get back to the book questions. Jerry's in Mississippi. Jerry, you got a title for the Biden book?
The Emperor's New Clothes, a novel by Joe Biden.
I like it, The Emperor's New Clothes, because, we know Cobra as well. Thank you, Jerry. That's a good one. Dave's in Iowa. Dave, thanks for calling the Chris Plant Show. Your title for the Biden book?
For Sale, The Art of a Deal.
You could just put, and we could put like a real estate for sale sign with America on it, and the Bidens as the realtors. I like that. I'm already working on the cover, Jerry. All right, Dave, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Thank you. Joe is in Arkansas with a proposed title for the Joe Biden memoir.
Yes, I think the title of Joe Biden's book should be God's Gift to Black Women, because Joe Biden had the first allegedly black woman vice president, and he appointed the first black woman to the Supreme Court.
Well, that's interesting. You're right, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I hadn't even thought about it that way, Joe. But thank you. Let's go to Ivan in Miramar Beach, Florida. Hello, Ivan. What's the title for Joe Biden's upcoming memoir?
No joke. No joke works for all of us, because Joe likes to tell a lot of his stories, and he always punctuates it at the end with no joke. But that was his tagline, to let us know, that was his tell, rather, to let us know that he was actually lying. And the irony is that Joe was a joke, and he doesn't get it that he was a joke. But for us, he was no joke because he destroyed the country with 20 million illegals, and that'll be his legacy, the 20 million illegals as well as his dementia. So I say no joke.
Not a joke, folks. Not a joke. I like it. Very good, Ivan. Let's grab one more here. Then I got to take a break. Hack in Bethesda. Hello, Hack. You have a title?
I do have a title. Well, first, I'd like to apologize to your screeners because they have me on their list because one time I said they didn't have a sense of humor. They do have a sense of humor because they let me on. But my title is Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
That's really serious. I would, if I saw that on the on the movie channels coming up, if Netflix says Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, I would stop and see what the heck that is. But wouldn't he have to have a mind for it to be dangerous? Oh, that's wrong. It's Michael Pelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
No, I'm not joking. That misinformation is going to kill people. Not a joke. Not a joke. Not a joke.
A couple things everybody has in common in jail. One is they were the victims of abuse, or their kids were, or their mother was. Number two, can't read. Number three, they don't have any job skills.
And that's the kind of lack of logic you're likely to find in the upcoming memoir from Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., for which he's been paid $10 million. Wow. Wowie zowie. It's Michael Pelkin for Chris Plant. The more we go through this, the aggregation of all these clips, we really do have to point to America and go, what were you thinking? Because a lot of this happened before the 2020 election. Let's be honest. And we know there are problems with that, too. The stories, the ongoing search for the title for Joe Biden's upcoming memoirs continues. I'm getting text messages from people as well saying, you're not putting enough people on there. I want to get mine. Somebody said, the stickers that you saw in the gas stations when gas was so high that said, I did that you just need one of those. Or did I do that? And pointing to the inflation numbers. And we should talk about the Democrats, too, because the Democrats put out a graphic yesterday that talked about the cost of food and the cost of living in America and tried to say that Donald Trump was driving up the cost of living. And the graph they put up showed that as soon as Joe Biden got in office, the cost of food and everything skyrocketed. And now we know costs are going down. They immediately took that down when it was pointed out to them. We didn't say goodbye to Hulk Hogan. I have the clip from the RNC. I want to play it, but there is not enough time to get to it. We'll find room to do a little tribute. We do have a special edition of Democrats Say the Darndest Things coming up. Plus, Jonathan Turley has weighed in on what he thinks is going to happen after all of the Tulsi Gabbard released intelligence, the declassification, and who is most at risk. And now you're probably saying, where was Jonathan Turley when all of this information was released? Well, it appears that Jonathan Turley had a family situation. I think someone in his family passed away, maybe his mother. So he's got an excuse. But he certainly has an interesting and accurate take on it. We'll share it with you just around the corner. And more titles for Joe Biden's upcoming memoir from you, the brilliant Chris Plant audience. It's Opelka on the Chris Plant Show.